Hey guys, coming to you from my apartment here in Dallas, Texas, here on Friday. Final injury report day for week 4. It's actually my day off, that's why I'm not in studio today, plus it's my birthday. But the final injury reports came out today, and lots of stuff to talk about for the Pittsburgh Steelers in terms of this week 4 matchup versus the Indianapolis Colts. And there's even some injury news that's going to impact the Steelers' week 5 matchup on Sunday Night Football versus the Dallas Cowboys. So we're going to get to all the injury news today, all the injury updates, getting you guys ready for Sunday's matchup against the Colts. And then I actually have an updated score prediction coming up later in today's show for Steelers versus Colts here after knowing all the players that are questionable, all the players that are out, all that kind of stuff. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I usually get a video like this out to you guys every Friday when the injury reports come out so that we all know what to expect heading into Sunday. So if you guys want to click that subscribe button right now, I'm usually in studio, but here on Fridays, it's usually my day off, but I like to get a video out to you guys when we get these injury reports. So let's get into the Steelers here first. And the Steelers, came into the weekend and we didn't really expect Jaylen Warren to be available. Now we know for sure that he will be out. He is listed as out. Some other players listed as out. Alex Highsmith, we knew already that he was going to miss a couple of weeks. Then Michael Pruitt, who we also knew was going to be out this week. Russell Wilson is listed as questionable, but as we've seen over the last several weeks, questionable likely means out for Russell Wilson, and we do expect Justin Fields to be the starting quarterback for the Steelers on Sunday versus the Colts. Now, Isaac Seumalo is somebody that could have potentially gotten up to the point where he could play in this football game, but to this point, he is doubtful to play. And in NFL terminology, doubtful means he's probably not going to play. It's like a 99.9% chance that Isaac will be out for the 4th straight week to start this 2024 campaign. However, especially with Sunday Night Football next week against the Cowboys, I definitely expect him to be on the field there in week 5. He was a limited participant in practices this week. And even though I don't expect him on the field on Sunday versus the Colts, I definitely expect him on the field at Acrisure Stadium on Sunday Night Football. Then on the Colts side here, lots of injuries to discuss here that have an impact on the dynamic of this week's football game. So we'll start with the 2 guys that are out. 2 starters for the Colts will be out in this football game. Cornerback Kenny Moore, the second, who is currently their number 1 corner, and then also Kwity Paye, who is a defensive lineman, who is a run-stuffing specialist. So how does that affect the dynamic of this week's game? Well, first, Kenny Moore, he's their number 1 corner in a cornerback room that's already pretty thin. Julius Brents, their other starting corner, is on IR, so now that they're going to be missing Kenny Moore, they're going to have backups out there going up against George Pickens, Calvin Austin III, and the Steelers' weapons. So I think it's definitely a good week here for Justin Fields, Arthur Smith, and the Steelers' offense to target George Pickens as much as they can. I do expect Indianapolis to do quite a bit of double teaming on GP, but even then, I think that he can even beat some of those double teams. That's how kind of thin they are in the secondary, and then when they do go to one-on-one coverage with GP on a backup corner at this point, I think you got to exploit that, and you got to get the ball down the field, and he's going to win those 50-50 contested ball situations if he doesn't just straight up toast them with his route running. I think there's going to be lots of opportunities to get the ball to 14 for dynamic, explosive gains. Then when it comes to Kwity Paye, the defensive end that will be out this week, he's one of their key run stuffers, all right? So like Grover Stewart, their nose tackle, is another key cog in stopping the run for them. Kwity Paye on the edge is really, really good at setting that edge, forcing these running backs to kick it back inside, and now they're going to be relying on backup. Samson Ebukam, another one of their rotational edge rushers, is on IR, out for the season, and now they're going to be missing Paye. So they have a rookie out there, Leatu Latu out of UCLA, who I was very high on coming out in the draft this year. He's going to be a stud in this league. He's had a very good start to his 2024 campaign, but they don't really have anybody on the other side of the defensive line, so expect Arthur Smith to really be targeting that backup defensive end with the stretch runs that we've seen the Steelers run throughout this season. And then another big storyline to keep your eye on heading into Sunday is that Braden Smith, their starting right tackle, and then Ryan Kelley, their starting center, are both questionable to play. They did not practice on Friday, or they were limited in practice on Friday. And Shane Steichen, their head coach, said, we'll see if they play on Sunday, which definitely doesn't sound optimistic. Now, if they're missing either Kelley or Smith, two very important cogs to their offensive line, this Steelers pass rush and this front seven is just going to dominate even more than I already expected them to in this football game, and they're just going to be that much more dangerous. All right, so I've gone into this week, and I think in my preview I had a 23-13 score prediction for a Steelers win. I'm going to increase that to 27-13. I think with the injuries to Kenny Moore and Kwity Paye, along with the fact that there might not be a couple of starting offensive linemen, some very key pieces. I mean, the starting right tackle for the Colts is going to have to go up against T.J. Watt. If that's going to have to be their backup, that's going to be a long freaking day for the Indianapolis Colts, if you ask me. All right, so if they don't have Smith, if they don't have Kelley, we know for sure they won't have Moore and they won't have Paye. Those injuries are stacking up for them in what I already think is a mismatch for the Pittsburgh Steelers in terms of overall roster talent. So I'm going to go with the Steelers to win convincingly here. I know there's some Steelers fans out there that are worried about a quote-unquote Tomlin trap game, all these different things, we do see from time to time here that Mike Tomlin's Steelers teams do lose these games that they should clearly win at times. But I don't think that's going to happen this week. I think the Steelers are more buttoned up on offense than they have been in recent years. Their defense is the best it's been in the last decade. And that's saying something because we're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers here. I just think this is a different Steelers team than the ones that would give up those, those kinds of quote-unquote Tomlin trap game type losses. So I do think Steelers win by multiple scores here. Obviously, all that matters is they just win the game. I don't care about how much they win the game by, but I do think the matchup this week favors the Steelers quite a bit. So the final thing to talk about here on this injury update edition of Steelers Talk is a little bit of an update on the Dallas Cowboys, because in 10 days the Pittsburgh Steelers play the Cowboys at Acrisure Stadium in the primetime debut for the Steelers here on Sunday Night Football, and it looks like that the Dallas Cowboys will be without both of their starting edge rushers as Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence suffered injuries last night against the New York Giants on Thursday Night Football. Micah Parsons with a high ankle sprain, DeMarcus Lawrence with a foot. Looks like both of them are going to miss some time, and they're going to miss Week 5 versus the Steelers. Now, obviously, we never root for injuries here on Steelers Talk, and we hope and we pray that Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence can have quick and speedy and full recoveries this season so that they can have long careers after these injuries, right? It's just, they're sprains. They're not serious injuries. But, that's not to say that isn't a giant advantage for the Pittsburgh Steelers, not having to deal with Micah Parsons going up against Broderick Jones, who we know has really struggled. And, last week the Steelers caught a little bit of a break with Joey Bosa getting hurt early in that game. In the home opener last week against the Chargers. Now this week, Kwity Paye, who usually lines up against the right tackle, is going to be hurt. So Broderick should do a lot better this week than maybe he would have otherwise. And then next week, he doesn't have to go up against one of, if not the best pass rusher in the league. What am I talking about? T.J. Watt's the best pass rusher in the league. Micah's actually had a pretty slow start in that Mike Zimmer defense there in Dallas this year. But at the end of the day, he's a game-changing type of talent. Going up against a guy like Broderick Jones, that could have potentially been a game-wrecking type of matchup. But it looks like that's not going to be the case heading into this week. And that obviously puts the Steelers at an advantage heading into Week 5. And even then, I think that the Steelers' defensive line and their pass rush would just absolutely eat that Dallas Cowboys offensive line for breakfast. They're going to get Dak Prescott on the ground to get him to make mistakes. And I think the offense, is going to be able to do a good enough job. I think Najee Harris is going to have a really good week next week against the Dallas Cowboys, who have one of the worst run defensive units in the National Football League. They did a better job last night against the Giants, but the Giants don't really have any run game to speak of. I think Najee Harris and hopefully Jaylen Warren is back next week and have a really good performance against the Cowboys. Honestly, I don't see anything on paper that can prevent the Steelers from beating the Dallas Cowboys by multiple scores. They're home. I think that they have the advantage on both of the trenches, especially because of the injuries to Micah and DeMarcus Lawrence. And I just think that Justin Fields is playing good enough ball to protect the football, to make the plays that need to be made. all these different things. So I feel pretty darn good about where the Steelers stand here heading into these next 2 weeks. I do think that they're set up on paper to win both of these games by double digits. Now, obviously, all I care about is the W. I don't care if they win by 1 point or multiple scores, right? But it'd be nice to see this Steelers team, in a matchup that they clearly have the advantage in, really take advantage of that and win by the appropriate amount and win by 9+ points if possible. So I can't wait to see what they're going to be able to do. Justin Fields, obviously, I think that he's earned the right to be this team's starting quarterback, but the pressure is a little bit on still, because if he has a bad performance this week against this Colts defense with a thin secondary and injuries on the defensive line, if he throws 2 picks and they lose the game because he's losing the game for him, that could open the door back up for Russell Wilson. So that'll be an interesting storyline to watch. Don't get me wrong, I have a lot of belief in Fields at this point. I have some confidence in him that he's going to be able to be a good game manager, protect the football, take the shots downfield when they're there, and get the ball out on time. So I think at the end of the day, 27-13 Steelers. Tomorrow we're going to be having a segment come out here on Steelers Talk, and then of course Sunday it is our live watch party. Coop and I will be going live from studio here at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, and I have about at least 50,000 Yinzers in the chat on Sunday. So if you want to be one of those 50,000 people that watch our live shows, largest watch parties here on Steelers YouTube. So I greatly appreciate your guys' support. Make sure you click that subscribe button. Make sure you click that thumbs up icon. I will see you guys tomorrow, and until then, here we go, Steelers.